and welcome to Thoughts in the Green Room, the interview series with your host, Geoff Mays. With me today is Velvet Wells, aka the Velvet Duke. Now, I don't believe that you need any introductions, truthfully. I really don't. But there are some people out there who don't know you as well as I do and who don't know you as well as your fan base. So for them and their edification, you are the creator and the producer of The Dandies. And this is the year that you started your seventh season of Holodeck Follies. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Wow. 7 years. And Holodeck Follies is an ongoing long-form Star Trek Improv variety show. Did I get that right?
That is correct.
Wonderful, wonderful. And literally, you have entertained thousands of people across Toronto, Fan Expo, Toronto Comic Con, and anywhere else.
We were in Manitoba. We opened up for William Shatner.
You opened for William Shatner in Manitoba. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
So, the seventh season obviously is doing you well for Holodeck Follies and taking you places with the Dandies.
Yes.
And I understand this year also was the first year that you did Harry Potter Improv at the Festival of Wizardry.
Festival of Wizardry, yes.
What was that experience like?
It was nice. It was a road trip.
Nice.
So we have had various incarnations of road trips in the past. We've gone down to Niagara Falls, up to Ottawa. This was the first time we were doing a paid gig out of town to an audience that had not seen us in any form, doing a format that we enjoyed. We love Star Trek. We love Star Trek, but we were looking for a second show. And Harry Potter was the one that not only was dear to us, but also caught on at the conventions. And so it was great to arrive in the middle of a field and be wizards.
That sounds very cool. And you said, if I heard correctly, that was your first time doing it out there. You were received well?
We were received very well.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Now, in addition to everything that you've been doing that I've already mentioned, Comedy Bar is your current home in Toronto for the Holodeck Follies.
Correct.
And you can be seen there every second Saturday of the month. Every second Saturday of the month at Comedy Bar, except for when they're doing conventions. Right.
We give ourselves that break.
Yes.
Rather than putting extra energy into trying to get people to two places, we know we're going to be at the convention. They know we're going to be at the convention. Let's all just meet up and have a good time.
That sounds great. Now, in addition to the Dandies, which is current and most long-running currently, right? Mm-hmm. You also are the creator and producer of Intersection.
Correct.
All right. And that celebrates, if I've got this correctly, this is your first year of sharing true stories and improvised tales from diverse storytellers and improvisers.
Correct.
Now, what I like about this, which I think is one of the amazing aspects about yourself, the Dandies, and what you put forward, is all proceeds from these shows goes to local charities.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about, tell me and them a little bit about Intersection.
I created Intersection because at the time there weren't a lot of spaces for diverse performers.
Okay.
Unless they were part of a mixed group already. They were brought in, they were a guest, or they were they were a feature in some way, but for the most part the stories that we would tell wouldn't be heard because it's not part of the pop culture.
Right.
So I wanted that space. I recognize that as much as I want my voice heard, there are other people who also want their voices heard. And we were in a location where not everybody could do that. So my first goal was to give the money to Stopgap Foundation. We're on a second floor. It's not accessible. Mm-hmm. So let's start giving money to accessible charities. If we can't make our space better, we can make Toronto better.
Absolutely.
So that was the genesis of it. I knew from day one that was where I wanted to start. But then we recognized there are other groups out there, there are other charities out there that need to be heard, need to be helped. So we broadened the mandate. Last time we gave to Sistering, which is a shelter for women who have, I could go into that, look it up. They do wonderful work and they needed help. So we help them. So I feel like not only am I getting something, not only are the storytellers and performers getting something, but we're also doing it for the greater good.
Absolutely. And I see that not only as admirable, but knowing you, because we have a long history, I know that as part of your essence and your being, which feeds back into, obviously, directly into the community, but directly into the way that you perform and what you bring forward on stage.
Right.
Speaking of on stage, we've talked about you being a creator and a producer of the things we just said: Holodeck Follies, Harry Potter.
You keep saying that. I think you've watched a different version than I have.
Yes, that late night version, the Harry Potter Improv intersection. But you are also a performer in all the aforementioned things.
Absolutely. I started these things because I wanted to perform. I needed space for myself to do that, and so I created the Dandies so that my wife and I could get up and be silly together. We expanded that because I had friends I wanted to play with all the time. So I had that space to do Star Trek with a bunch of people who also like Star Trek. Intersection, I did that to have diverse people that I could play with and not have to worry about coding my language or anything. So I could have fun with that. And then I started doing solo improv because I love performing with and to the audience. And then it was very natural for me to get into stand-up. That was solo improv was the stepping stone for me to get into the one-to-many of telling jokes.
So, not only a creator and producer, a very talented performer. Definitely you can see him easily accessible every second Saturday of the month at Comedy Bar in the Holodeck Follies. But at the end of this, all of the tags for Velvet will be available. You can take a look and click the links and seek out his shows that way also. Now, I want to take us back in time a little bit.
Okay.
I understand.
How far back?
We're going way back.
All right.
We're going way back. Way back to when you performed on Mr. Dressup, and you've also sung beside the Nylons and Alanis Morissette.
Right.
Would you say that's the beginning of the performer Velvet? Or is there time before then that you had an idea of you as this performer?
That's the genesis of me as a professional performer.
Okay.
But I was always on stage in one way or another. I remember public school, there was the speech arts.
Right.
It would be a competition that existed, at least here in Ontario, where if you had a monologue or something that you wanted to share dramatically, then you could do that. And I remember the one that got me through to the regional level was an interview that I performed by myself. I played both characters.
Okay.
So that's my earliest memory of wanting to be in that situation, purposely being on stage by myself, acting up. I had a great time. Time passed, however. That was great. I got into high school theater and I had a blast with that. But the idea of being a performer really didn't hit until I did Mr. Dressup.
And what did you do on Mr. Dressup? You know, some of our viewers are too young to know Mr. Dressup. It was a fabulous educational style show,
yes,
led by Mr. Dressup, with puppets and sing-song and various aspects. Variety show-esque, I think, could be a quick sum up of it.
Sure.
For our viewers who have never seen it. But what did you end up doing on Mr. Dressup?
So I'm going to go back and I'm going to edit my answer to say, I didn't have any aspirations of being a professional performer, but I had aspirations of being on Mr. Dressup.
Okay.
So when it happened, I was ecstatic. It was great. It was as much an honor to meet Mr. Dressup as Casey and Finnegan, or Chester the Crow, or whatever generation you happen to be of Mr. Dressup fan. I was the toy maker.
Okay.
I was the person that when Casey had a broken toy or if there was a new toy to introduce to the world, I was the person who facilitated. I got to sing. I got to sing to Casey and Finnegan. So that is one of the other performing things that I enjoy doing. And so I was in my glory.
Absolutely. How much fun did you have? That's kind of rhetorical, but...
It was a lot of fun. It also was the first time I was on television, so I saw the behind the scene version of what was happening, and that took a little bit of the magic away, but at the same time it added a different style of magic because I saw what they were doing to achieve the end result.
Right.
And that was great to be part of it. It was definitely a dopamine high. for a while.
Right. Now, you said something interesting there to me, which is seeing behind the set and seeing what goes into making the final product, which comes back to what we were talking about earlier, your ability to give back, your ability to incorporate others and play with others. And something that a lot of people don't recognize, which I think is important in any aspect of art, is it's not just the final product that you get. It is some guy who's spent hours setting up a light, some person who spent hours writing a script. And if we don't recognize that as performers, then we're not doing justice, in my opinion. I think you agree with me with that nod of head, and
Yes.
right? Then we're not doing justice to what art truly is, because it's not just about a performance. It's about the big picture, the team effort that gives the audience a final product.
Right.
Absolutely. So thank you for saying that and recognizing all the unsung heroes that go into so much of the art that we get to do as a final product.
Normally we perform at Comedy Bar and other bars around town, and there's always that shout out to the tech person. But in some cases it's a formality. For some people it's the formality of give the round to yourself, to the bar, to the this, to the that. I feel it. I know that, yes, I could be out on the street doing my performance and I don't have that net, but they enhance the product. They also want it to be a good show. And every production I've been part of, that has been true.
Absolutely.
And to add to that, they don't necessarily want to be on stage. They are enjoying doing their part in the position that they are in.
That is a key element that you're absolutely right. They are fabulous at what they do because they are equally in their element, setting the light or managing the board, making sure the microphones are working or whatever aspect that it is. I don't want it to mean anything by not being accurate, but I don't know enough about it. So lights happen, sound happens. I'm grateful because when I'm on stage without them, you don't see me or hear me. So thank you for bringing that forward. I think it's an important aspect, and with everything that you do and that I know of you as a performer, I know that you give credit there, which speaks to you as a person, and that's also important to our audience to hear that. You know, we're not all horrible stories that you hear about some other artists out there in the world. Coming back to the Mr. Dress-Up, Nylons, Alanis Morissette, all of that, you said that was your recognitions of your professional start, correct? Did I hear that?
Yeah.
I heard that correctly. So how long did that run go in terms of following that professionally?
That run went about 2 years.
Okay.
And then I had depression and mental illness, and that set me back. And I had to rebuild myself from the ego up, or without ego, or whatever the combinations happened to be. I had to rediscover who I was. I had to know that I was a caring, giving, intelligent, loving, lovable person. And so that took quite a while.
Quite a while. Okay.
As part of that journey, I got into improv. And my heart, that's where my joy is to create theater on the spot with very little provocation, very little input, sometimes a lot of input. So that variety really helped me to expand and discover nooks and crannies within myself and to discover my excellence.
And that excellence, I think, shines through. I am as you know, obviously, I'm regularly at the Holodeck Follies. I regularly see your shows, and we've got a long history as friends. And I've watched that excellence piece by piece, growing and growing and growing. Now, before I speak about that excellence and the growing, I want to come back, if you allow me, just a few moments. You mentioned depression, mental health challenges. I recognize that is a huge thing. Currently, it's the kind of a hot topic right now. And I want to recognize, A, that it's a hot topic right now, but take away from it just being a hot topic as being an ongoing topic that's been in society since society has begun. Right? Since humans have begun, this has always been there. And I understand as well from knowing you, from seeing things that you've done, that you speak out. I've seen posts on Facebook that you're an advocate for the recognition of mental health as health, period. Right?
Yes.
It's not mental health, it's health.
It is,
right?
It is one of the many systems within your body that needs assistance from time to time.
Absolutely. And to that point, we've got an advocate here We've got an advocate here. Just a general shout out and a recognition to anybody who struggles, anybody who has difficulty. There are support systems out there, and there are ways that you can seek out that support, that you can get help. And I do want to encourage for anybody who isn't aware of it to recognize that these are ongoing issues in our society. Artists like Velvet bring them to the stage and put them in the spotlight to help and to get you guys aware. So have a thought to that, and I think that's an important message to share.
Absolutely. And it isn't cured.
Yeah.
I'm not cured. I have had bouts, multiple bouts. They come and go. I get the help that I need for it. It's always in the back of my mind, or wherever it's located on that day, to know the reason that I'm an advocate for it is the more we speak out about it, the more that we know that it exists, the easier it is to remove the shame portion so that we can get the help that we need.
Absolutely. I agree with you fully.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that piece. It's very personal, and I appreciate that. Our audience appreciates that. I want to come back off of that and speak now about that idea of the building, watching the excellence grow, right? You spent some time in the corporate world, right?
Still.
So have I. There's this thing called a day job, right? Yeah. And if I understand, for a while, it almost took you away from the craft.
It did take me away.
It did take you away.
Two things took me away. My job and my family. Very committed in both. And that meant I did not give myself the time for creativity. In the last 10 years, I have found the balance that I needed. But for sure, I was absent from any creative scene except for karaoke.
Right. Now, you just answered the next question I had. For when did you sort of come back? And you said the last 10 years.
Right.
I was present for the starting of that. I was in discussion with you when you were talking about coming back, and it made me excited. And I have watched over the last 10 years what I call the Velvet Empire grow. I remember seeing one of the first shows of Dandies, and there was a bunch of people in the audience, and they somehow all knew somebody on stage, and that was about it. And 2 months ago, when I was at Dandies Holodeck Follies, there was nobody in there that knew anybody on. Well, not nobody, but it was dominated by fresh audience.
Yes.
So we've gone from 10 years ago here to you're drawing crowds.
Right.
What is that experience like for you when you look back now over 10 years? And I ask that question specifically because for many people there's the overnight success, right? You wake up one morning, you walk out on stage, and boom, you are a superstar. No, you're not.
Yeah.
You know, you've now got overnight success 10 years in the making. What's that like to look back on the experience of building?
As a producer, as a creator, it was very frustrating. I was waiting for the overnight success. I was waiting for that moment where we got to just perform, as opposed to rally the crowd from outside the doors or down the street or on social media. In this last year, I've recognized that while I still put that effort out there, it really isn't my effort that has them coming. It is the excellence on stage. It is the subject matter. It is time. We've proven ourselves as an entertainment source. So that's satisfying. That is, it's heartwarming. It is the dream. Right? To know that when you look out there and you're seeing people who are enjoying themselves and have no ego connection to you, they're just enjoying themselves. That means that I'm doing it right. I can take any anxiety that I may have had about it and just push it out the door. It's not it makes that anxiety even less real.
Okay.
So it's very validating in that way. It also, the fact that we go to conventions, like going to conventions is not something every group does. There have been other improv groups who go out there, but we're a mainstay. It is our home. It's almost our second home. And to know that we're entertaining even more people there who are coming from all over the country, if not all over the world. It's amazing.
That sounds amazing. I haven't experienced a convention run myself by any means, so that I'm only riffing off of the vibe I'm getting here. And what I'm capturing in a nutshell for the audience out there is that rise, right, from the first show you did to here, is one that's not just joy and happiness along the way. It's work. It requires struggle. Overcoming challenges, facing moments of joy, moments of drop down, in and out, until you reach a point where you just spoke about, where you're looking at an audience of unknown faces primarily, and recognizing that those unknown faces are simply enjoying themselves, which gives you the outcome of a success feeling, a joy feeling, a happiness, all of that realm of emotional state.
Exactly.
That is fabulous. So it's taken you a while. We've got Mr. Dress Up. We've got an absence due to finding life balance, a family. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Family is one thing that takes a lot out of people, and working a job, all of those things together, and then coming back to it, which speaks to me, and I believe speaks to you. You can speak to this to yourself in the moment, of the soul of an artist, right? You've lived many hats now. Right?
I constantly I am juggling many hats.
Yes. And to that point, somebody who knew you 15 years ago, or somebody who still works with you, who maybe has never seen your show or aware of that, might only see you as a corporate individual. Correct?
Very correct.
Right.
I actually had a comment recently about being reserved. I had isolated my performer world from my corporate world. I don't talk about it at work. Most of them commute, so I don't expect them to come out to see it. Some of them don't even get why somebody would want to be in the spotlight. They're very happy being behind a computer. So I didn't see a need to share myself in that world. But as I started to, and as they started to see that side of me, that dynamic side of me, our connections, our relationships have deepened. Wonderful. And their appreciation of what I do, and the fact that I'm able to keep a lid on it in the corporate world, is astounding to them.
And that's fabulous. That's a difficult balance. I live that balance as well, because I go to my day job and do my thing as well, and I've got to keep that balance. So I understand that. That goes with it, right? But the reason I highlight that is because after all that time away, I know other artists who didn't make the journey back. Who haven't found a path back in for themselves. And in some respects, I don't want to demean them or take away from them. That speaks to me, in many cases, for the people that I've interacted with, as a lost soul. And I can see it in their faces, their demeanor today from years ago. I can see it in the struggle of individuals who are looking for that way. And then I see I'll go to your example, where it's just karaoke is the only outlet, right? For a period of time for yourself. And so I see the karaokeers, by example here. And what I guess I'm getting at, which I find impressive about yourself and others who have made the journey, is the soul of the artist that lives within you has found its home again. What's it like recognizing that soul and giving rise to it?
When I was in high school, a teacher had said, if you can do anything but theater, go do it.
I've heard it as well.
Right? They were speaking to the attrition of the artists out in the world. Like, it is difficult to manage. It is a very tough road. And so there are many reasons why people lose their way or choose something else. For me, the need to be back on stage, that's my joy. That is where I find so much of my joy. So why am I denying myself this thing I need? So to speak to it as the soul of the artist, absolutely. There are visual artists as well as performing artists who have that same drive. And part of how I know that's true for myself is in the corporate world, when they ask me about how I have the time and energy for all of the performing I do, because for them, getting home, eating, and going to bed is part of their routine. And for me, it's get home, eat, go back out, perform, stay out, and then do the corporate world again in the morning. That's another point of awe for them. It's how can I do that? Well, how do I do it? I have the passion. I can't help but do it. That uh, that empowers it is my battery.
It is your battery.
To have the lights on me, to have an audience, to have that moment to shine.
I like the way you said that. It is my battery, and I think summing up and coming back to this specific point I was maybe digging for with my question is finding your artist is the battery. It's the joy that feeds life. So for those of you, and this comes up, I spoke with somebody yesterday, a young artist who's just finding their way. For those of you who are out there like that person I spoke to yesterday, find the battery, find the joy, and just follow the joy. Now, in finding the joy, this brings me around to, I think, the final piece of thought that I want to have with you today before we begin our wrap-up.
Okay.
Mr. Dressup, corporate world, finding the way back in, 10 years, road to success with Holodeck Follies and everything that you do with the Dandies and all the improv. And as an artist, there's no way you're going to be stagnant. There's no way you're going to sit on Holodeck Follies and just do that for the next 20 years. You'd lose your mind, I'm quite confident. Mm-hmm. So what's the next step? Where is the new evolution of the Velvet Duke, Velvet Wells?
I've spent so much of my creative energy in groups, waiting for somebody to open the door of opportunity to the next big thing, or waiting to have that group mind and we all go through that door together. I've never wanted to ride somebody else's coattails to have my success. I've waited too long. So I am doing my first solo production.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Called Personal Demon Hunter. Mm-hmm. And it will be an opportunity for me to expose and relish all of my personal demons. It will also give me an opportunity to do the types of performing that I like. I'll be improvising. I'll be storytelling, stand-up, and singing.
Wonderful. First, where will we see Personal Demon Hunter?
Right now, it is part of the Fringe Festivals. I have been accepted to Victoria and Windsor. I'm waiting to hear about some of the others across the country. I may do some one-off shows in other cities, depending on demand. And then, of course, the goal is to get it to a movie or television or Netflix.
The next evolution.
The next evolution
Absolutely.
Of that. But the first step is doing it for myself. This is my birthday gift. This is my creative birthday gift to myself.
That is a smart choice in my mind. Congratulations on giving yourself a creative birthday gift.
Thank you.
And as a final piece on this, and I do want to highlight this as I mentioned a few moments ago, I spoke with a young artist yesterday who is just literally going, I finished school and how do I get into it? So it's a little bit fresh in my own mind about the struggle of being an artist. We've spoke already about 10 years to Holodeck Folly success, right? And the Dandy success. Are you starting a new path that equals that same kind of struggle and growth again to bring Demon Hunter forward? Or is it, I can do it now because I've done all the work with the Dandies and Holodeck?
In terms of the work, no, I'm not even going to edit it. It is always a new path. Every artistic endeavor is a new path. It's either a new venue or a new audience, or it's a new type of performing, or it's, if you are pushing your boundaries as a performer, it is always new. There are some things that skill set,
right?
That's not new. I know how to improvise. I know how to sing. Putting it all together in one show, that's new. Traveling it across the country, that's new. Now, when I get there, a venue is a venue, right? So there are some things that are, this is routine, but most of it, if you're being honest in the moment and daring, will be new.
Okay. Which I imagine comes with some struggles, the ups and downs, the facing the challenges, overcoming the challenges.
Yes.
And the goal being that you end up in a city, Windsor, Victoria, wherever you end up doing all of the shows that I know the success that this piece is going to have, that you look out into an audience of new faces and know that they're entertained.
And I think one of the things that I'm now at a place, my confidence is ready to take on this new challenge in a way that it wasn't years ago.
And I, as a personal friend of yours, know that without question. It's evident. So congratulations to you,
Thank you.
Velvet Wells. The Velvet Duke, ladies and gentlemen. You can catch him, as I've said already, every second Saturday of the month at Comedy Bar. In the very near future, we've got some fringe shows coming up for Personal Demon Hunter. At the end of this video, you will see a bunch of tags. Feel free to check out the Dandies and the Velvet Duke. Ladies and gentlemen, those are your thoughts from the green room on the interview series with our guest, Velvet Duke, and your host, Geoff Mays. We'll see you in a few weeks.